Welcome to Talking Science Africa, a show where we host science and researchers to explain to us the work that they are doing and how that work is relevant to our ordinary lives. We have always been told that agriculture is the backbone of Uganda's economy, but also many economies across Africa. This sector has been facing many challenges, but most recently the challenge of climate change. How do you ensure that climate change does not break this sector? Science have been working to come up with solutions that helps farmers adapt to climate change. Today we are pleased to host Dr. Titus Alicai, who is the Director of Research at the National Agricultural Research Organization. That is Uganda's principal agency that deals with science research in the agriculture sector. Doctor, welcome to this one.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be on this show of science talking Africa.
I'm always intrigued by things that I learn in agriculture sector, especially to do with the work that we are doing. When I started interviewing people, I actually started interviewing people in the public health until then I crossed to agriculture sector. And then I found it more interesting and more exciting because perhaps maybe I didn't know what was happening there. For you have been in this sector for perhaps almost 30 years. How is it working in this sector?
It's a very interesting area because every day we encounter real world problems, challenges that are felt by the ordinary person on a day-to-day basis. And those challenges constitute the questions through which we look and questions that form the basis of the work that we do. And essentially, we aim really to make the society happy through sustainable agriculture, food security. That people should have food to eat and good quality food to eat. They should have something that brings money in their households, and also at the national level, the country's economy needs to thrive. So we make a contribution to that through our work.
Every day is what?
Every day we wake up, we think about these challenges out there, and as the world continues to move ahead, so do the challenges, and the challenges keep mounting. And the simplest of those is how do we feed a rapidly growing population? How do we address the changing patterns of consumers? More and more people are moving to live in urban areas, and when they do that, the kind of foods they get to eat in the cities and towns change. But how do we address that? How do we help the youth and other vulnerable groups? Can people be healthy through our work in agriculture? So those are the things which really motivate us, and we do work through many ways, and ultimately what we are aiming at is getting that new thing that will cause change in somebody's life. Is it a new crop variety? Is it a new breed of animal? Is it a new way of managing your farm? Is it a way that can protect your crops or your livestock from diseases and pests? And sometimes, how do we turn these common food commodities, the crops, the livestock, how do we add value to them so that we get more money out of it? How can we make our land more productive? Because the land is fixed, the size is not going to increase. but the population is increasing. So how do we, these demands, our food systems, which are increasing, how do we meet them with the same land resource? That needs some level of thinking, that needs new things to be brought on the table. That is where we come in with our agricultural research, which is basically about working to transform our agriculture sustainably through the innovation that we have.
Yes, many questions, many challenges that you are trying to tackle every day. And even as you're working for me, someone who reads a lot of research, one research that I came across recently was saying that our agriculture sector is not where it should be in terms of research and innovation, and because of that, we could be losing around 1.5 billion US dollars annually by 2050. Is that something that you are looking at? Are there losses that you're already making? What are they, and what are you doing about it?
Agricultural research in this country is relatively young. The first form of agricultural research was done in 1898. That was when some plants were collected and planted as what now we commonly call the botanical garden at Entebbe.
1898.
1898. So that is the foundation.
140 years ago.
140 years, not even 150 years.
Okay.
So
may you assume that that's actually too much time.
That is just about 3 or 4 generations, and but initially it was designed to meet the needs of the colonial administrators, especially targeting export commodities, feed the industries in those countries. But we have seen an evolution of agricultural research in the country. With time, it was scattered differently in space. But around 1990, this was consolidated to what we now know as the National Agricultural Research Organization, which is a premier institution responsible for agricultural research in the country, and it's an agency of the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry, Fisheries, and it implements agricultural research through 16 public agricultural research institutes. The headquarters is at Entebbe, and where we are today, the National Crops Resources Research is one of those 16 institutes. And indeed, in its research agenda, climate resilience is key, and it cuts across the different sectors of agriculture, the crop sector, forestry, fisheries, livestock, and also land and soil management. So that cuts across that, and also value addition and agroengineering. So all those components or areas of research, NARO has made sure and some elements of climate resilience. Yes, it is true, the projections are not good, that in the next 20 years to 30 years, by 2050, losses could be quite significant in agricultural production in terms of productivity losses. And NARO is addressing that through a number of ways. One, and the quickest, is the response in terms of solutions, because climate change is already here with us. So we urgently need technologies that can help address these challenges. So, for instance, for crops, there's work that has been done to develop climate-smart crop varieties. These are either tolerant to drought, that you can plant them, and when rains disappear, they'll still be able to grow and give you some reasonable yield, compared to the old ones. When rains disappear, within a few days, they'll dry up. So these ones will survive, give you some yield. We're also looking at heat. When the temperatures are rising, some plants will just fall down and dry. But NARO is working to develop intolerant varieties. We work in lowland areas. We commonly experience flood, which is one of the effects of climate change, or how it manifests. So, for instance, we're interested in rice, which, if is submerged, covered by water, will survive. Many plants, if the area is flooded, once the water goes down after the floods, the plant will also die. But we're interested in this kind of rice. If it is submerged, it will survive under the water. When the water goes away, they start growing again.
That would be an interesting type of rice.
Yeah.
Maybe it can grow at the bottom of a lake.
So it can grow underwater for some time, of course, for not be indefinitely. Yeah. So we look at all those, but that is what comes with the crop. Inherent is within the crop. It's in the genetics. But there are also other ways through which we can protect agriculture from the effects of climate change. So first of all, the production environment. Can we adjust the way we cultivate, the way we use shades? Can we manage water efficient? Water which is available. The non-efficiency. Can we improve nutrition of the health of the crops? Yeah, if it is stronger and it can resist heat or better. So all those things is a complex thing. But yes, we believe that through these innovations, and when you put them in the hands of the farmers, that we can close some of that gap on those losses which we have risked. We can minimize the day.
One question on rice. Every rice is grown in wetlands. And wetlands, climate experts have been telling us that wetlands are very important for carbon sinking. So my question is, why we are now looking at the rice that can grow in flooded areas, even if it is submerged. So we asked me, why is it that you are not getting rice out of wetlands and growing it on mountain?
We are going there, and we already have a journey in a long way. First of all, rice can grow in 3 different types of environment. Traditionally, the varieties of rice which initially came out are those that only grow when in areas which are flooded with water most of the times.
So rice needs a lot of water.
Some types of rice, all the types of rice could only survive where there's a lot of water. So you hear about the paddy rice. So there's that type of rice. We grow it in the yard. We are farmers. We go Because this time Uganda is a find them growing rice places we can plant this water. We have areas which are intermediate. They are not in the wetland, yeah, but they are at the edge of the wetlands. So they don't need a lot of water. We don't need water all the time. But you have the wetland or in the swamps or the irrigation schemes. They rely on rain mostly. So they are rain safe. Yeah. The third type of, and we have varieties that perform well, that kind of environment. But now, for the last 20 years, we introduced, and the country have been producing what we call upland rice. That is rice you can put in your backyard in Kampala. It will grow. It does not have to grow in a wetland. It can grow with less wind. So that is the one here promoted it very extensively and is widely being run in this country. We go to districts like Moya, Amuru, Northern Uganda, Eastern Uganda, many parts of this country. Farmers are growing up upland rice. So they moved away. So there are those still who live in communities where the place is naturally already surrounded with wetland. That is perhaps you have limited options in terms of land for the pound. They have to use the wetlands. So that is what we are faced with. It presents tough question whether how successfully can we move people away from the wetlands in Congo and Spanish region. So knowing that that will be a process at time because they need to have alternative, we have now come up with ways and are still doing research on how can we use the wetlands or the lowland periods or rice cultivation without leaving a negative footprint in terms of the soil, in terms of the water resources. So we are developing technologies, for instance, what we call alternative waving and dry. That the rice only needs water at some points. Doesn't need to be flooded with water all the time, every day. And then also in there, how can we make sure that the soil health is sustained? How can we minimize the emission of these gases that are made up of the on the climate? How can we minimize that? So we have ongoing research on sustainable cultivation of rice in this part of the environment. So yes, it's a long stretch that we can produce rice actually in multiple environments with minimum keeping.
Part of many debates. For me, I think the biggest achievement when I was growing up, whenever you go buy rice, there was always Pakistan rice. For me to go in his supermarket and you are finding shelves full of the Ugandan rice, I see that's a very big achievement. Means you're working and your products are going to get into.
We are now between 60 to 70% self-sufficient in rice. That is amount of rice. That amount of rice we consume, produce locally. Compared to 25 years ago, it was the other way around. We're importing more than 90% of our rice. So the last 25 years, I see both our production levels, productivity also is about up. And now we are developing new types of rice. What people like in basmati, we are about to have our own varieties of rice, which are not any defect of bad basmati. We shall be reducing the importation of basmati rice in this camp. We have rice types that are perennial. You plant it once, you can harvest it up to 6 times without having to replant. Meaning, grows, give you the grain, party. Goes again after 34 months, gives you more grain, you cut. So you're not disturbing the soil. You may not need to add a lot of fertilizer or other nutrients. You are conserving the soil. So it's a really climate thing. Rice, variety, and so I didn't kind of.
The exciting me to go and grow rice.
Let's turn to coffee.
Yes,
Coffee is Uganda's most exciting cash crop at the moment.
that's true.
Everyone is trying to plant coffee.
Yes.
When you look at figures, Uganda is exporting coffee worth $2.5 billion US dollars.
Yes.
That's a lot of money for our economy.
Yeah.
But I read a paper which was saying that because of climate change, our coffee yields may go down by 50% by 2050. What are you doing in the coffee sector?
The coffee is so valuable in this country. And as NARO, we want to make sure that we protect it. And we also want to make sure that we're able to get more coffee produced, we're able to get more value and more money out of it for households, but also for the country. And so, yes, our projections are right, and what we are doing is minimize those risks, the threats that have to come as a result of things like the drought, and sometimes those changes after manifest has increased occurrence or outbreaks of pests and diseases, because pests and diseases are favored by warmer and wetter conditions. So if not addressed, they could actually make the situation worse. So we are addressing that first and foremost by coming up with drought-tolerant coffee varieties. As of now, we have got some promise. We have some advanced lines of Robusta coffee that we have evaluated. 12 of them. And out of those, 5 are showing very good forms for drought-based tolerance. Meaning, in the near future, is to be made available as new varieties that are brought together. We have not stopped there. We are looking at other sources of drought tolerance. So we are also screening massively cotton, coffee genotypes, coffee types for their performance against drought. We have work that is going on within our facilities, and you screen large numbers, close to 200 different lines, and they have identified 17 lines. These are still at very early stage of evolution. But this is in our facilities. We still need to take these out there in the real world environment, the dry areas, to see how they perform there. So, and we also have some indigenous coffee types. And the country you'll hear this talking about by Berica or Ancestor coffee. These are indigenous, some of them as in here locally in Uganda. And they are naturally tolerant to drought. We're very good with this about. And but they don't give us the kind of coffee that you like to bring comes with the yield and the quality, the aroma, and all those things, and the phthalates. But we're interested in that thing which makes them drought tolerant. So we can extract that through what we call breeding, making crosses, mating with our old copy type. Do that process, we can come out with the drought tolerant. So that's another line, and we are making for.
How do you actually make coffee?
A new coffee variety.
Yeah.
A new coffee variety or a new crop variety, there are many processes now. The traditional means or approach is like how you get young chicks from a cock and a hen. They have to mate. Or as humans, yeah, you choose a partner because of one reason or the other. Then you get together, the offspring, and then the children you get inherit certain things from both parents. So that is the same here. You get pollen from here, we put it. So what we used to know, primary school, they cross fertilization or cross pollination. Sometimes the bees help us to good and when you get the seed, that's the news. Liking to be carrying. Science tells us that there's a good likelihood that they have inherited something that you're interested in. So you evaluate is that. So that is one, the traditional method. We are still using that. There are also modern methods where they study those factors and give us the characteristics. We can study them in the lab and then help to speed up this process, because the other one of using the flowers can take you 20, 30 years before you come up with a new variety. But if you integrate modern science tools, maybe you can understand it. So traditional means plus modern science, we combine there. We hear about now genomic selection, genetic engineering. The science the tools is the potential use, which for coffee we are not discuss. But the other two, for instance, if we have a new drought tolerant coffee variety released by NARO today, how do the hundreds of thousands of farmers look at the access? Access the planting material. Again, you can go back to the yard and do what we call typical issue that can go with small pieces to make more copies of it. The silicon available.
There is this coffee that I'm a coffee farmer, so people talk about KR, those varieties. How drought resistant are they at the moment before we get to the perfection of the most drought resistant coffee variety?
So we have very few of them. The most recent have some drought tolerance, and then the latest KR series, 8, 9 to 10, have a level of drought tolerant, but these are not yet widely available to farmers, and that's the effort now. Why the government interested having this widely available to the farmers. But the key thing is, other than the bit of resilience in that variety, what else can farmers do to really reinforce that variety or guarding, shielding on the variety of the drought. So those are the things that practices are equally important.
Diseases. I started seeing coffee diseases like 10 years ago, around 10 years ago, where you see a coffee tree starts drying from the top and after a few weeks completely gone. How is climate change affecting coffee diseases and what actually for farmers do?
So you're talking about an epidemic? which really devastated coffee in this country. That's the coffee wilt disease epidemic. And there are also other diseases, coffee leaf rust. And then we have also the pests, which can also cause similar symptoms, black twig borer. All these are enhanced, or they thrive when conditions are warmer and wetter. It helps them to spread these kind of conditions, where they can multiply better, they can survive better under those kind of conditions.
That's like hospital.
Yes. So the first thing really is to get to understand what is this thing that is making my coffee sick. Is it a pest? What kind of pest disease is it? How can we control it? Yeah. Can I control it just by using what we call sanitation? Some diseases on our homestead, we avoid them by just being clean. Is your coffee garden clean? Yeah. If you see disease on one plant, you can actually remove it. Sometimes you can remove just a branch, which is sick. And that tool you have used to remove, you don't use it again to go and cut another clean plant. That way you're just spreading it. So there are those kind of practices alone and help us reduce, prevent those kind of diseases or pests. Sometimes we can spray, we can use chemicals, with specific chemicals, specific diseases, spray them correctly at the right time, right dose, using the right method. But for that particular disease you talked about, the coffee wilt disease, the major thing that NARO did is to develop varieties of coffee that are resistant to coffee wilt disease. So most of these KR series of varieties are actually resistant to that coffee wilt disease. And this what is being massively applied and available to us for production. And that contribution by NARO has actually helped to revive and change the declining trend of coffee production in Eastern Uganda. So that is the most reliable way in controlling pests and diseases in crop, use of resistant coffee. And it's cheap. Once you have it, you don't even need chemicals. Yeah.
So as a coffee farmer, for me, the biggest carrying now is drought. In Western Uganda, we're just getting out here, drought. For the past 2.5 months, I have had people to go to the gardens every day and be irrigating this conditional vegetation. So when the take water, come on the power water and the top street, and it's really very expensive if you are doing that every day for a period of 2 months. When are we going to get to this drought-resistant coffee variety stage? If it is a dry spell between July and between May and August in Western Uganda, I don't even need to think about this drought affecting my cost. When are we getting this variety?
So as I described to you earlier, the process of coming up with a new variety typically takes long. And we now have these hybrids coffee at a tail advanced stage. The one I said has been screened and they're showing some good promise. And at this stage, we are only looking at how they can perform under drought conditions in our facilities at the institute, and in this space, our institute for coffee research the National Coffee Research Institute, which is based at Kituza in Mukono. So we have lots of facilities there to go there. We find greenhouses, we have protected area, nets, where we do those kind of studies. We first screen them. So that's the first level. And then we have take them, the ones which perform well, they are reflecting the fields. And there we are only answering the first question. Are any of these lines drought resistant or tolerant? Then we go on to there are many other questions. How the ones which are now drought tolerant, how do they perform in different parts of the country? What is their yield? We find that there's a highly drought resistant variety, but the yield is very low. And the country is talking about 20 million that bag of 50 kgs. If you go with a low yielding variety, which is drought tolerant, it will not be this. So all those processes. And then eventually we look at after yields, what is the quality when we harvest the coffee beans and process it, and what is the aroma, what is the taste in the palate, that is all those things consumer would like in coffee. Are they there? Is it going to make us competitive in the international market? Everybody will want our coffee. So we answer so many questions. It might be drought tolerant or resistant, but it might be highly susceptible to disease. So you look for ways of combining all those things in our coffee, come up with really good varieties. So that whole process may take you 10 years or 15 years, but with the materials we have now in our hands, I would say 5 to 10 years. We have those kind of varieties available. And the other thing I need to mention is that there are other things that we can do that can help protect our plants or our agriculture in the vagaries of climate change. We are now developing other products, especially those that are biological in nature, that we have not used chemicals in them. We have what we call biostimulants. Right now we have one we are promoting called Skipper, which is basically based on acetic acid. Acetic acid is a common thing you extract from the plants around. Yeah. When you formulate it and just spray it in a plant, it triggers the plant's heat and drought tolerance mechanisms. They just spray and the plant will be protected for a couple of weeks when they grow. And you recommend that if your plants are young, it's getting to dry season, you spray that product. For those weeks when there is no rain, your plant will survive. When the rains start, it will take up from there.
So where can people buy this stimulant?
So it's not available with NARO holding. And a arm of NARO that is responsible for commercial dissemination of some of our technology. So it's one we partnered with a Japanese company. It's been officially launched and it's now being surveyed for commercial use. It has done very well. Coffee and cabbage, tomatoes, maize, and about 15 crops that they tested that provide some level of protection against drought. So we have those kind of products. We have others, biopesticides of the developed products. Sometimes pests when you get outbreaks, the chemicals, many control them well, so we have other options. And biofertilizers to the soil health. So all those and he integrated tolerant varieties to really minimize the risk of climate change, the losses.
Yeah, man. Resistant bananas. Uganda's most common staple food, perhaps. How is climate change affecting banana planting and production? And what are you doing in this country?
Yeah, banana is a major crop in this country, and as a matter of fact, we eat more bananas than any other country in the world. So we use it in different forms. Most popular is the matoke, the main foods. In sometimes we eat it as a dessert. So, and it is directly affected by drought. See the crop drying if the drought is excessive. But also there are a number of diseases that thrive when conditions are drier. We have fungal diseases like black sidatoka, we have fusarium. When it is dry, it means that the spore, we call them spores, or the tiny particles of the fungus, able to move around, mature and spread when it is drier. You also have a disease called bacterial wilt. Yeah, many of these like the bacterial wilt disease was never here before. It's just emerged about 20 years ago in this country and moved as an epidemic across the country. So again, our main approach is through research work, come up with the varieties that combine some of the key things that are important, including drought tolerance. So we are looking at disease, pest tolerance. But first, we have a major problem with the rivers. So we are also looking at that. So in our breeding work, we look out for varieties that show good performance against these stresses of pest diseases and drought. And I'm glad to say that some of our most recently released banana hybrids, the matoke types, NARO band 4, NARO band 5, NARO band 6, have a fairly good level of tolerance to a drought. And these are being availed to farmers through different channels. So again, it's through breeding for drought tolerance, is through management of moisture, and the techniques as mulching, managing soil health, and even managing water within your banana plantation, conserve water. So we feel those are combination of those things can help for climate resilience in banana.
Among these new varieties, you have the Kabaradara or your banana, the zinc. It's the one that was affected by these banana wilt diseases much more than others. And I think, should I say that we are close to seeing the extinction of yellow banana? From what I see in my evidence, I don't know what is happening in other parts of the town.
Yeah. So those are what I call the dessert bananas. The right and you just eat. To cook them. They are so tasty, so sweet. The way they are sweet to us, they are also very sweet to the pests, the diseases. So they are really attacked by diseases and pests. But I'm glad to say that we have been working so hard for a long time to come up with the busy, as they are called, type of varieties that will be resistant to a number of those pests and diseases, and to retain that sweetness. So the research is advanced. I believe in the coming 2 years we should use the care to have those varieties available. And once we have them, then we will be expanding and restoring their production. This is the ability.
Maybe a brief question. What's the state of the Irish and sweet potatoes growing in Uganda? And also how do they cope with the effects of climate change?
So the issues are the same. Ordinarily, you will see that crop like sweet potato perhaps would be less affected compared to other crops when there's drought, the heat. But if it becomes extreme, it also succumbs. And the other thing with those kind of crops is if there's prolonged droughts, you'll find that they dry up. And then another dimension comes in. The planting material disappears. It becomes very scarce compared to the grains. The seed is the same, maybe stored somewhere. We can grow in the store and buy the seed of maize, but drought will wipe out the planting material, sweet potato, cassava, this kind of crops. So that's how these are impacted. That affects the availability of planting material. But also it's manifests in terms of the pests and diseases. For sweet potato, the problem of sweet potato weevil is actually much more serious during the dry season or in the drier areas. So that is the way in which it gets affected. For the potato, it's commonly called the Irish potato. That is technically the real potato. Its biggest challenge again is seeds. And we have the problem of a disease called late blight. Again, it's a fungal disease. But farmers have to spend a lot of money, do a lot of spraying their potatoes to survive. So the work we are doing is to come up with the varieties that are tolerant to that late blight, and also have innovations for seed products.
Millet has been identified as one of the climate resilient crop. But should we say that the production of millet is going down? How is the status of millet growing? What is the status of millet growing in Uganda? And where are we headed for the bit?
So for millet especially, we have not seen the kind of growth in terms of production and productivity over decades, and that could be due to a multitude of factors, and key among those is actually the issue of soil health. And as a country, we have one of the lowest rates of fertilizer needs country, and the soils have been relatively better in terms of the fertility. So crops like millet require really good levels of soil. So a major cause of law of growth and production is a continued use of soils that are decline for millet production. There are also pests and disease from that continue building up. And some of it could be the demand. Yeah, with the change in consumption pattern, the consumer tastes. You see now, many of the young people, they want to eat rice. If you put rice and the kalo on the table, they will leave kalo, and
They also don't want to drink
and Bishara, then they ask you, what is this? What this brown thing? Yeah.
But I understand what you are saying, because the tradition knowledge my parents or people in the village, whenever they are going to plant millet, you don't always go to the virgin land. Look for the virgin land, therefore
Exactly.
you plant millet.
Yeah.
And right now you cannot have virgin land.
Yes.
And also when a local farmer sees that you are not the plant millet, you get nothing, the plant millet again, you get nothing. Why do you count it for the subtype?
Yeah. So what we have done as NARO is to come up with the millet varieties that are efficient in utilizing the resources, the nutrients which are available in the soil. So they are nutrient efficient, that even if the nutrients are a little bit low, they still give you good yields. So we have those millet varieties that we have developed and continue to develop at our NARO Institute at Serere, the National Semi-Arid Resources Research Institute. Which also has sorghum, cowpeas, groundnuts, and pigeon peas and cotton.
Let's turn to the rice stock. So it's very important for the blood sector. We have about 15 million cows in Zambia and about 16 million eggs in Zambia. That's according to, I see, the last census. How is this sector coping up with this climate change?
Yeah, climate change is also a big threat in the livestock sector, and you are seeing that manifested in periods when you have drought. You see the feed and water resources reduce significantly, and we see animals just dying from the direct effects of drought and heat. But also we have seen this burden for pests and diseases on the livestock. So that's NARO has been addressing some of those in different ways. The first is this the genetics. So we need breeds that are efficient in their conversion of the limited feed resources, that they'll be able to be more productive. They are high performing, meaning as if they put on more meats or produce more milk per unit of either water or the feeds that they consume. So get a better breeds. Then also looking at the health of the animals. So from this increasing burden of diseases and pests, we have come up with innovations. The most recent is the anti-tick vaccine, which is really one major one where the country spends a lot of money on all the ticks and the diseases that is past this. So we have now a homegrown vaccine which has been rolled out and it's being big, and many other diseases. So we are taking the approach of vaccines. As NARO, we want to emerge, and the government has tried us coming up with a vaccine city that will tackle some of these major diseases in our livestock. Then there's also the issue of feeds and pastures. So we have work to address to come up with the pasture species, the varieties, other tolerance, or deep tolerant, but at the same time still with the high nutritive value. So that is addressing the sustainable feeds issue. And then the other one is just the pests. Those are still ahead. They should use recommended practices, appropriate practices, which, when these things are all put together, can help shield the livestock from these climate change impacts. And there is also part of the problem comes from the wastes from the animal, the livestock production. So we also have measures how we can put into use the waste of livestock farming. And actually for us, they are implementing or researching on the zero waste kind of system, that waste should not just be lying around. When it is lying around, it is not properly digested or degraded. That is what emits, we get these gases coming out that contribute to the global warming.
Yes, Steve. Yes.
Managing the waste.
Science have been telling us that livestock contributes a substantial percentage to these greenhouse emissions that are making our world come, oh my God. But we know that these wastes are important for manure, and you have to facilitate them stay there and dry. Once they dry, you take it to your garden, you put it in the farm, and then they get it spread out. So how are you going to be dealing with this? Is it that when the wastes immediately come out the cow, you pick them, or you lay them on the ground?
So the key thing is how quickly can you turn that waste into something useful? Yeah. If it is manure, it can be energy, biogas. Yeah. So we are coming up with the innovation that can achieve that. Like we can quickly turn down on the other waste into useful product. So that reduces exposure and the processes that lead to emission of these gases that are disrupted. So I think that is you can use microbe, agriculture, it's a natural occurring in the environment, quickly help us, when you mix it with this dung, they can quickly digest and break it down. Yeah. And then any gas which comes out, or you can actually swap the gas and use the gas instead of letting it float around. Or simple things like rotation. If you rotate or grazing areas, that will help minimize that problem of waste.
Regions like Karamoja are perennial in Ghana. When you talk about, and they are becoming dry, when you talk about these solutions that you are trying to are they applicable in a region like Karamoja first? Those people are traditional pastoralists. They don't grow a lot of cash crops, are food crops. How quickly are you going to find a solution for the climate change that the livestock farmers in Karamoja are facing?
So for livestock, our national institute is a National Livestock Research Research Institute, NARO. It does a lot of these high-level strategic research to come up with the solutions. But specifically for Karamoja, you have Nabuin Zonal Agricultural Research and Development Institute. It is located in Karamoja. And its primary role would be to keep these innovations that have relevance for Karamoja region, then go and refine them locally under the local condition. Whether it's a livestock breeds, if we come up with it here at Naliru, it still would have to be tested in that area. If it is a pasture species that we think is drought tolerant, we have tested it in the spring houses at Naliru, it still would have to be tested in Karamoja. And if it is a production system that we think can help reduce or minimize the risks on climate change, our zonal institute at Nabuin is mandated to test that locally. So we may have many innovations coming up, but through our institute, it is located in Karamoja, we test to see how adaptable that technology is in Karamoja, but also how does it fix in the practices there. And through that, we are beginning to make headway to address lots of problems in Karamoja, and also for other commodities. You're interested to know that there are farmers in Karamoja who are picking up coffee product.
Interesting.
And they have started our testing.
Which kind of variety of coffee varieties are you taking Karamoja compared to the ones that we have in Uganda? How different are they?
You have the KR varieties, one or two which have a bit of tolerance to the drought. Have been planted there, but also I told you about Excelsa compute, the naturally drought tolerant. We are testing a technology where with the grafting, where the Excelsa is the one which sits in the soil, because that is where in fact the drought will come through the soil, so they're able to tolerate that, and the Robusta is grafted on top. So the Robusta might now be disease or pest tolerant or resistant. We have Restia Robusta, but be supported Gomumba by Excels. So we have different approaches, and this based on these kinds of evidence. That's why we're expanding coffee production in the areas of the eastern Uganda, northern Uganda, which are normally a little bit quiet, where traditional areas of coffee production.
That's an interesting technology that they want to look at how it works in the real scene.
Our colleagues at NARO, the Coffee Institute, will be pleased to explain to you how that really does wonder.
If we talk about the aquaculture sector, Uganda is blessed with all of these freshwater bodies that surrounds us. But you have also been identified as a country whose aquaculture is at risk of climate change. We know that with global warming, the water body starts, we get a bit warm. How is this affecting our fishing sector?
The climate change indeed was affecting and the projected player was a big risk to our fisheries sector through different ways. And the fish lives in water. Water is its environment. So when the environmental conditions in water, the quality of water changes, the temperatures change, definitely productivity in the water bodies gets affected. And that is compounded by bad practices. The productivity is affected by environmental conditions. And then we have bad fishing practices, and the effects just get worse. So yes, that calls for action and attention, and NARO has been working to study those environments, those ecosystems, doing surveys and the water bodies. We look at different parameters, and especially those that will affect the performance of our fish in the water body. And we have also been monitoring pests and diseases that affect fish, because of climate change, they begin to see the escalation of pests and diseases. So we have been doing research to understand this. How are we able to identify these diseases accurately? Can we do their diagnosis? How best can we control them? We are doing different kind of trials on controlling diseases and pests of fish. But productivity also depends on the feeding of the fish. So that's an area we're being active researching. Sustainable feed systems for our fish, both in the open water bodies but also the aquaculture systems.
It has been a pleasure learning from you about what's happening in our agriculture sector, what NARO is doing to put up climate resilient crops, dealing with the diseases. And as you said, it's a process that takes many, many years. I think what I learned from you that even you at NARO, you are grappling with so many questions, which you are trying to find answers, and which will take a long time to get. For me, I'll be excited. Keep following up on what you are doing. When have you found the answers? When have you found the new challenges? When have you found a new challenge? So that we can keep informing Ugandans, also keep tabs on what's happening. Thank you once again for your time, and it has been a pleasure learning from you.
I've been honored with their visits on the interaction, and this has been very good because we're addressing one of the biggest challenges affecting not just Uganda, but from mankind as a whole. It's important that this is a topic that's will be kept active, and so that we think together about how best we can address challenges, climate change, their impacts on livelihoods and the economy and the development of the planet. Look forward to it more and more. Thank you.
I pray.